Hey people, it's scionlyte, and welcome back to scionlyte, where I take a quick look at newer or smaller games that have piqued my interest. This time we're going into a genre that I haven't talked much about in the past, visual novels with the werewolf or mafia-styled sci-fi mystery game, Gnosia. Developed by Petit Depot and originally released for the Vita, Gnosia released on March 4th, 2021 for the Switch, which is where I and most people will likely be picking it up. Like I said earlier, Gnosia is a visual novel with gameplay mainly inspired by the social party games Werewolf or Mafia. The core gameplay is pretty simple. Someone's infected with an alien parasite known as a Gnosia, and it's up to you to find out who it is. The crew members of the spaceship you're on all meet in one area and have discussions about who could be the aforementioned Gnosia. They are going to do everything they can in order to kill off as many people as possible in order to take over the ship, and the humans are trying to figure out who they are in order to put them into cold sleep, eliminating the threat once and for all. Thankfully though, it's not just some lying aliens and a bunch of regular people waiting around to be picked off. Each person can take on specific roles that can help the crew weed the Gnosia out. Aside from regular crew, there are engineers who can determine if someone is a Gnosia, doctors who can do the same for people already sent to sleep, AC followers who are trying to help the Gnosia take over, guard duty who are guaranteed to be humans, and guardian angels who can protect one person per night from a Gnosia attack. There's also a unique role called a bug that is basically playing their own game and trying to win separately from the crew and the Gnosia and destroy the universe. The Gnosia aren't just hung out to dry though, they can each pretend to be in roles like engineer or doctor in order to trick the crew into freezing the wrong people. If you've played or seen any of these games in real life before, you know the general idea, and Gnosia doesn't do a whole lot to differentiate itself from those. The main thing that it does is have the player get experience with each loop, which they can use to level up their abilities. Each of these abilities have small effects on the investigations, and the higher the stats are, the better at these you will be. You'll be able to tell when someone's lying, or get people to believe your own lies or claims easier, make people less likely to see you as an enemy, etc, etc. All of the crew members have their own sets of stats as well, which determines how they'll act during the discussions. As you level up your stats, you unlock new tactics that you can use to get an advantage. You can do things like start up small talk to get people off of their train of thought, you can retaliate against accusations, you can attempt to rally people to vote against a specific person before discussions are over, that sort of thing. The other crew members get these too, which can really help or mess with your plans pretty easily, and it makes for discussions that don't necessarily go in the ways that you'd expect. Now the setting and story is where this game really sets itself apart. The story revolves around you and Setsu, one of the members of the crew, and the fact that the two of you are trapped in a time loop, reliving the same events of the Gnosia invasion over and over and over. The primary draw of the game to me was finding out what was going on, why you're in the time loop, what's causing it, and more importantly, how to break it. To do this, you're going to need to learn about all of the people on the ship, and Gnosia has quite the cast of characters. From Jonas, the stir-crazy space captain, to Shigemichi, the real-life little Grey, to Chippy, a guy who browsed way too much fur affinity, to Gina, who is probably the only normal person on board. Each character is really unique and adds a lot to the game. In between rounds of investigation, you'll get the chance to talk to one person, and these can be just simple interactions which show you a bit about their personality, or more unique events that teach you something important about them. I really liked seeing these. They really fill out the characters' personalities a lot more than the gameplay sections can get across. This leads me to one of my major criticisms of the game, that the characters really only shine outside of the investigations. Sure, they all have certain tells and habits that they fall into during these discussions, largely in line with their stats. Xiaoming is very likely to start small talk to get the heat off of him because he has high stealth, that sort of thing. But aside from that, there's only like 1 or 2 lines each person has for each situation, being doubted or accusing someone else, whatever. It makes it easier to parse different situations and determine their motivations, sure, but it also makes these characters feel a whole lot less developed than they should be. Less real person and more Oblivion NPC, you know? Because of this, the further into the game you get, the more individual loops start to feel the same, which did make continuing on harder at times. Another issue I have related to that is how long the game is. The core loop of the game is very simple and pretty quick. An entire loop can take 15 to 20 minutes tops. So finding these new and interesting events should be similarly quick and easy, right? No. A lot of these are based on RNG, so if you don't get the exact right conditions, you just get a loop with nothing interesting. So I either played it out and wasted a lot of time, or just got myself iced quickly to move on, and I shouldn't be motivated to do that. The game does give you the ability to automatically try to find specific configurations that are more likely to see one of these events, but it's never guaranteed, and if an event requires both you and one other specific crew member to survive to the end, getting these can be very frustrating. I managed to beat the game in 128 total loops, which took me about 15 hours to get through. That would be fine if it weren't for the fact that the majority of these loops were either completely uneventful, or were loops that I progressed most of the way through an event just to die or have the person that I needed to survive die before that was unlocked. Doing these less unique loops or failing unique ones wouldn't have been as much of a slog if the characters were more, I guess, present during the actual investigations. Having at least one or two unique interactions between each character, even if it's just a few lines and a few more individual lines for each character's reactions to things, would have made a massive difference. All that said, even with the frustrations that this game has, and it does have many, I did still beat it, and I don't think it was wasted time overall. I think the characters and the mystery that the game creates is strong enough that seeing it through to the end was worth the journey. I'm not going to spoil the game's endings or even any of the twists and turns that the game takes, but it's really well done, really well thought out, so reaching the end and even seeing the secret true ending afterwards was very satisfying. That being said, I definitely don't think I'll be going back to play it again anytime soon. I was able to handle 125 plus loops, but I don't think I'd want to go around again, if you know what I mean. So all in all, if you're a fan of visual novels, like the idea of the social deduction style gameplay, and are willing to keep with it for quite a bit longer than it probably should stick around for, then Gnosia is an easy recommendation. If you're a little more wary on the core ideas though, then probably skip it. It did overstay its welcome in my opinion, but it's a game I probably won't be forgetting anytime soon either. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you all later. It's not a Gnelf, it's not a Gnoblin, it's Gnosia, and you've been nauseated.